hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Now, in regards to that statement, he's definitely not wrong. So 30 years after The Rock was first announced that he was going to play Black Adam, the movie is finally in theaters. And in a much different comic book movie landscape than when this movie was first announced, does it still hold up? Well, there's a lot of mixed reactions to this movie so far, but I'm here to talk about my thoughts, so let's get to it. In ancient Kahndaq, Teth Adam was bestowed the almighty power of the gods. After using these powers for vengeance, he's imprisoned for nearly 5,000 years. Now free, his unique form of justice born out of rage is challenged by modern day heroes who form the Justice Society. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. In my reviews, I discuss what I liked, what I didn't like, and then my overall thoughts. So starting with what I liked about the movie, let's go ahead and start with the new characters that we're introduced to in this movie. The Rock has been attached to this movie since 2007, and in my opinion, it was worth the wait to see him finally play this character. I honestly think that when we look back at this casting in the future, it's gonna go down as one of the best castings in a superhero movie. It takes about 20 minutes for the character to show up in the movie, but when he does, there's definitely no question that Black Adam is not to be messed with. Every time this guy is on screen in an action sequence, you just can't take your eyes off of what he's doing. With ease, Black Adam is just wrecking shop with a force and brutality that, in all honesty, justifies to me why this movie almost got an R rating. But even when he's not fighting, The Rock just does a great job as his character. The only caveat, though, if I'm being honest, is that when you see The Rock as Black Adam, there's not really a lot of acting involved. You definitely see The Rock. But that's not really a bad thing, though, because when you see Iron Man, you know that that's just an amplified version of Robert Downey Jr., the same way that when you see Deadpool, you know that that's just an amplified version of Ryan Reynolds. I say all that to say that if you don't like The Rock, you're definitely not going to like this movie. But for me, though, seeing The Rock play a superhero was the entire appeal of this movie. As far as the other characters go, everyone else did a good job, too. The new characters of Cyclone and Atom Smasher were both good. But easily the standouts to this movie, other than Black Adam of course, were Hawkman and Dr. Fate. Pierce Brosnan plays Dr. Fate, and when it was first announced that he was going to play this role, I knew he was going to do a good job, but I did wonder why DC picked him at his age to play this character. But when you see the movie, you pretty much know why. And I know I'm not the only one that walked out of this movie really interested in that version of the character and wanting to see more. Now I know it's not going to happen, but if DC announced that they were going to do a spin-off movie about Dr. Fate, I'd be all for it. And Aldous Hodge as Hawkman is going to be a character that I think a lot of people are going to want to see again too. He had to convincingly go toe-to-toe with The Rock of all people, and I think he pulled it off. Hawkman and Black Adam have numerous fight sequences in this movie, and just seeing those two interact is one of the biggest highlights of the movie. Especially when they have their dialogue about heroes and villains, because Hawkman is firmly on the black and white side of heroes do this and villains do this, but Black Adam is pretty much the definition of an anti-hero. But overall, pretty much every action sequence in this movie was on point, and you're definitely going to get your money's worth from that alone. Another thing I liked about this movie was the writing, but it's also the biggest thing I didn't like about this movie too. I did initially have my questions about why the Justice Society was even in this movie, but as you watch it, you definitely understand why. As powerful as Black Adam is, he couldn't go up against a Suicide Squad because there's nobody on that team that could even put up a fight. The Shazam family could put up a fight, but as presently represented with their ability levels, Black Adam would still beat them all. But y'all already know that at some point after Shazam 2, these characters are going to come into conflict, and I can't wait to see that. And then there's the Justice League, who could take Black Adam down, but let's be honest, they would just overshadow Black Adam in his own movie. Which leads us to the Justice Society, who won't beat Black Adam, but will still put up enough of a fight to still be entertaining. And no, saying that is not a spoiler, because let's be honest, y'all ain't walking into this movie thinking Black Adam was going to lose. So the inclusion of the Justice Society in itself is a part of the writing that I did like, but the third act as a whole is easily the worst part of this movie. As far as what I didn't like about the movie, Black Adam is definitely filled with a lot of cliches and things that you've seen in other movies before. Let's be very clear up front, as far as the writing goes, this is not the Dark Knight of the DCEU. But if you're walking into a movie where The Rock of all people is playing a superhero, I don't know what to tell you if you were expecting some type of Shakespearean storytelling. And then there's the kid in this movie who's pretty much the main human character, and I think that a lot of people might have some issues with him. As far as his acting goes, I'm not really going to say much about that because I think he played the role the way that he was told to play the role, but I don't think his character in itself came across the way that it was supposed to come across. The further the movie went along, the more important he became to the story, but the further the movie went along, the less I cared about anything that was going on with him. But like I said before, the biggest problem with this movie is the third act. The movie spends so much time focusing on the conflict between Black Adam and the JSA, and let's be very clear that I loved all of that, but the movie never really takes the time to build up an actual bad guy, so when you get to the third act and they have to fight somebody, he kind of comes out of nowhere. Now for me personally, when it comes to this movie, I don't really have a problem with that, but in today's landscape with superhero movies, where having a good fleshed out villain could put your movie over the top, this movie doesn't really do that. So in conclusion, the story overall wasn't great, but there's a whole lot more to like about this movie than not like. I really enjoyed all the new superheroes that were presented in this movie. Dr. Fate, Hawkman, and especially Black Adam. One piece of advice though is that I think that this movie does play out a little bit better if you've seen Shazam. There's characters that appear in both movies, there's parts of the backstories that kind of correlate, which actually reminds me of a deleted scene in Shazam that I definitely think they should have kept in the movie, where they're sitting on their thrones for the first time and they've realized there's an empty seat. Now I know that the majority of the audience wouldn't have got that reference, but for all of us who are in the comics, we would have known that was a reference to Black Adam. But maybe they'll do a better segue at the end of Shazam 2, so we'll just have to wait and see. All that being said, I'd say this movie is a definite add to the Blu-ray collection. So that's my review of Black Adam. If you've seen it already, what did you think? And also, who's your favorite character portrayal in the DCEU? My answer has been Ben Affleck's Batman, and I'm sure that comes as no surprise to anybody familiar with this channel. Thanks for watching. If you like what you've seen, hit that thumbs up and click that subscribe button to see what's coming next.